day. My name is Philip DeVries, and I am your host today on a program which we call Our World Today. We are going to have a discussion on the go this very day about politics. And politics is something which is part of our lives. It's been part of us for a very long period of time. There are many connotations to the word politics as it relates to all of life, but basically it's about people's choice as far as governance is concerned. We're going to be talking about governance during the course of today. We're going to be having a discussion about the whole thing of what's happened in American politics, and then we're going to come over here to Africa. We're going to have a really interesting talk about Africa because the Brookings Institute, which is actually headquartered in the United States of America, particularly Washington, D.C., is also talking about some predictions or some projections that they have relating to this year, and especially in 2019. So having said that, then we're going to come across even further and closer to home because we're going to talk about the South African elections and the New Nation movement. And joining me today to discuss all these things is my friend and my colleague, Jacques van der Merwe.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. We should be having a hand clap on that one. That was such a good introduction.
So I'm basically your soundboard.
I would say that because of the fact that I've been doing some pretty thorough research, you're going to have to become a sounding board.
Well, bring it on, because I do have my opinions. And let's see what you've got in this program today.
Well, most people know that I don't have any time for extremes. And I want to say that right from the word go. I don't like the extreme right wing, and I don't like the extreme left wing. I think both of them represent trouble in a nation, and we've seen it here in South Africa, both sides of it.
Yes.
We've seen it in the United States of America. We've seen it in many other parts of the world. In fact, a friend of mine in the U.S. who comes from South Africa was giving specific reference during the course of this past week since we were last together about all these different extremes that are coming into the world, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to try to find a middle stream.
Yeah.
So when I talk about, for instance, Archimex, I like a group called Archimex. Why? Because the people that they bring on accentuate all spectrums of thinking, now, inspired, in fact.
My question would be Archimex. Tell us more about Archimex, because I'm not familiar with them.
Well, Archimex is like a news sort of a publication which gives political opinion.
Because you mention them quite often.
I do.
Yeah, you refer to what they're writing.
And they're also centered in Washington, D.C.
Okay. But is it a printed newspaper, or is it an online newspaper?
It's a daily thing that they publish, and I get it every single day.
Yeah.
On my email.
Okay. And
each day it's a different journalist. Different and yet the same, because they kind of do a cycle of journalists that by and large represent what they call the righteous right. The righteous right. And I like that because it's not what we would call the right wing, but it's righteousness that they're trying to accentuate. And many of them represent, come from a theological kind of a background.
Because now that you mention it, you would think that you've got your one side and you've got your opposite side. But if you truly come to look at the whole thing, is you've got your far left and your far right. And then you've got this, what you call now the shall we call them what, kingdom-minded ones?
Possibly.
Yeah, and they move in a total different direction.
Yeah.
Because they're neither far right or far left.
Yeah.
So they're far in between.
Yeah.
And then you've got your mediocre in the middle.
Well, let's hope. Well, some of the writings are mediocre, I must say, because they represent a bias. And to me, a bias, okay, everybody's got biases. you know, from my perspective, I come from a biblical worldview. That represents, for some people, that represents a bias. I don't think that way simply because I believe the Bible has something to say about everything and does it from a very deeply compassionate and totally understanding perspective. So that's
Yes.
where I try to come from, and I think you do too.
Yes.
Where there's also another publication which I like to get simply because it's secular, but it oftentimes nails it.
Yeah.
And they really nail it properly, and that's called the Brookings Institute, also headquartered in Washington, D.C.
And we're going to be talking about something that they publicized this week.
Very, very much so. And it's what they call Foresight Africa, the top priorities for the continent of Africa in 2019. So they got a whole bunch of scholars from what they call AGI. Now, I don't know what that stands for, AGI scholars, and illuminated experts, they call them.
Illuminated experts.
Not the Illuminati.
Do you think we are illuminated?
Yeah, of course.
Discussers.
We glow with
glow.
what we believe in.
It's only the lights.
Yeah,
Must be.
yeah, right. Go for it. But having said that, in Archimax, with the Righteous Right, they put out something just a couple of days ago by a writer. Her name is S.E. Cupp, C-U-P-P. And the article, and I know you're going to like this, the article is called All Presidents and Candidates Deserve Trump-Level Scrutiny from the Press.
Yeah, you know, we've been talking about that quite a bit. And maybe it's just because I love movies and stuff, but I always had this whole impression of the US president being this absolutely respected person. And we've talked about it a couple of times with Trump. I mean, with Obama, a lot of people had a lot of stuff to say about Obama, but there was still a very strong respect. And now since the sides have been changed, and the opposition is now in the White House, the media and everybody has been really giving Trump a go. And I have to say, it's not like his face is helping very much. I mean, he looks the part of, you know, like they just want to get out and get him. And I mean, across the world, actually, a lot of people are against Trump, but they don't fully understand what he stands for.
Yeah, and of course, it also shows that the media have got darlings.
Yes.
They have darlings.
Yes, yeah.
And there's people that they love, there's people that they hate. The people that they hate mostly are in the Republican Party, especially the Washington Press.
Okay.
And they are very, very advanced in the thinking of media bias. There's no such thing as media neutrality anymore.
Yeah, there
That's
should
what
be.
seems to be the name of the game. And what Ms. Cupp was saying was that there's a deep necessity for the press to get it now, because they've been embarrassed by what has happened. They assumed for 2 years before Mr. Mueller's report came out that this old bugger was going to get nailed and they were going to get that guy out of the White House and all that stuff. But now they've been shown up for what they really are. And they've been shown to be the left wing, so to speak, radicals that are sitting there and have indeed an agenda to say, we don't like this man and we're going to do everything in our power to destroy him.
Yeah,
And Trump did not ask for that. Now,
No.
I go back and I can remember President Nixon. He had a pathological distaste for the press. I know that. I don't have a problem.
Pathological distaste.
Distaste.
So what's the difference between him and Trump? Because Trump is giving the press quite a go,
And he has the
especially
right to.
CNN.
He has a right to.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because Ms. Cupp, who writes for Archimax, is on staff at CNN. and
Okay.
she says many times Mr. Trump has asked for trouble. And quite frankly, we know that to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, she said, now, and here's the last paragraph that she gives. So yes, let's learn some lessons from this episode of what happened with Mueller and his report, not just to be better at covering this president, but all future presidents. In fact, we can start now by bringing the same level of suspicion, the Trump treatment, as a word, to each of the Democratic candidates that are now officially running for president.
Okay, but hold on. I think it's almost like the candidates running for president has been now at an all-time low, because they're getting anyone. Once again, this is just my impression from the U.S. and presidents. The president used to have always had this status look about him, this aura of this greatness and things, and you don't see that anymore. Trump was unexpected. It was like in the one moment we saw him as "you're fired," and the next moment I'm president. That was a change.
That's a good point.
Even Obama had a president feel about him.
Yeah, it did.
And
Almost a plastic.
Yeah.
My impression.
Yeah.
It came out, boom, 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 and it was almost like he had rehearsed this how many thousands of times before he got in front of the camera.
He was in president school, learned how to do it. But these new ones, it's like everybody's just fighting, and there's just properly thought through ideas being thrown around, and it's like everybody's a loose cannon. I'm going to be president now. So I hope Trump. It's not because Trump came in, because Trump is actually a very, very strong candidate for president if you look at his business background.
Yeah, and everybody is looking at the economy, and it's all about the economy. That's really what it comes to. If the economy is looking good, most of America are going to turn around and say, yeah, we can handle this, and let's go to the next step and re-elect him.
All right, so just on that point, how's your feeling? What is the true look of the U.S. economy at this stage? Is President Trump really doing what he apparently does?
Well, he's looking out for America, and he's doing a grand job of it. According to the latest reports, unemployment is way down. Good jobs are being had. People are getting work. There's less of a mentality about entitlement than there used to be. So more and more people are being forced to get out there, and the newspapers every single weekend are chock-a-block full of jobs of whatever types. So there's no excuse not to work. On top of that, I've told you about my friend that's been hired by the president to basically be his job stimulation expert. And she's doing a great job of it. From what I can see, she's doing a great job.
But see, that's the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. And if he's doing all these things, why are you complaining? That actually makes him... Okay, so his Twitter manners aren't very good, and he's got a way of scratching everybody up the wrong tree. But yet he's getting a job done that I think the previous presidents didn't have such a good track record on.
Like one person was saying, the only thing Obama can boast about is Obamacare. And during his administration, the SEALs finally got to Osama bin Laden. I mean, okay, you can look at that, and I think that we just have to get on and understand that there's something that we should be more concerned about. Because one of the things that's happening is that Mr. Trump has nominated a lady that was born and bred in East London, South Africa, to become his next ambassador to South Africa.
Interesting.
And she has been involved with him over many, many years, in a business sense, obviously. And is actually a member of the club that he is part of his group, his Trump hotel group, the Mar-a-Lago. And so she's also kind of like the furniture of handbags to the intelligentsia and to Hollywood and celebrities. Lana Marks is her name. And so I find that very significant that he's taken an African lady, a South African Jew actually, and she's coming as the Senate votes and everybody appoints and gets it all done, she'll be coming as the ambassador. And I think that's a new era for anything that has to do with diplomacy into our continent. Now, having said that, the Brookings Institute in Washington, we talked about them a moment ago. They have come out with an article, Foresight Africa, and they outlined the top priorities for the continent of Africa for 2019. One of the statements in the introduction that they came out with was to say this particular statement: despite continued progress on governance, more efforts are needed to eradicate corruption and to elevate the voice of women and young people in the decision making.
Okay.
I really like that.
All right.
Because especially the young people, when it really comes down to it. Because
That's a tough one, because it feels to me like, and all right, this is just, again, something from the sidelines. And, you know, how it feels to me like the school systems these days, they got all these great curriculums with maths and everything, but do they really teach the kids, the young people, how to live, how to make money, how to work a budget, how to get a job, the skills that they're going to need to live their lives out of school? And you know what, this almost fits in, and the reason why it makes me think of that is the fact that if you teach and coach your kids from a young age how to live life, you'll have a much more productive society. Then, I mean, I've heard it so many times. Maths. Wherever am I going to use that in my life ever again? Algebra and stuff. Now, there are some very clever people, but most of us, we don't use that anymore. So why did we spend time on that? Well, engineers, yes, but most of the people. But can you do a budget?
Well, that, of course, is something that we need to get into what we call logic in high school level.
True.
We really need, I don't think a kid needs to set up a budget, but I do think a high school student getting ready to go to college, hey, you need to set up a budget.
Even
you need to know what
if
it's all
they do
about.
it in the last 2 years before they finish school.
Yes.
But learn how to, I mean, even now if I say that guys need to learn how to iron their clothing, people would say, no. That's for the ladies.
Job. Yeah, forget it.
Hey, I'm a single guy and I have to iron my clothing
From
and
the
everything.
time that I was young, I'm going to cut you off. From the time... I mean, I love to iron my clothes. I don't have any problem with it.
I don't. I hate it.
Oh,
absolutely hate it. But you know what? It's a skill that you need. I mean, cooking. I hate cooking, but I love cooking. But I don't know how to cook, but I can cook because I'm single and I need to do it. And you know, are you teaching those things to the kids? Are you empowering them to be stronger in life?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we took up the challenge 18 years ago to start Life Community Services, so that kids can learn what the vital details of life are all about.
Yeah, to take care of themselves.
Yeah, and really self-reliance. Let's get into it and show them how it's done.
Yeah.
One of the things that comes out, they're talking in one of the top priorities is good governance. Institutions of democracy, they say, are advancing on the continent.
This is now of Africa.
Over the continent of Africa, and that's an encouragement to hear that. But obviously Nigeria, biggest nation on the continent, and South Africa are having elections. In fact, our elections are coming up within the next 35 days, I think it is. Yeah. Something like that.
May 8th.
Yeah, there's another priority that they talk about, and that is getting rid of indebtedness. Big problem on this continent.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get out of debt.
These are hot topics we're talking about this afternoon.
We really are.
Because this is my impression. Now we're going into politics, right? In South Africa. Now, one of the things that I've seen happen in South Africa is that there is this image created amongst the youth of South Africa, whether it's the black youth or the colored youth or whatever. There's this impression created expectation created that you need to be driving a smart car, that you need to have a big house, that you need to have all these smart clothing. A very unrealistic kind of benchmark set out there that now we're in the new South Africa and we need to behave like this. But the thing is, not everybody can financially reach that. And I think also that's why there's so much crime and stuff, because they're all trying to live up to something that is actually not possible, and they're not thankful for what they've got to make a good living out of it.
And there's a high price to pay.
And a lot of the politicians has got very much to do with that. Are we naming names in this episode?
No,
we're not naming names. So yes, there is a couple of the politicians that's flying very high and creating this false image, and people are not being able to live up to it.
Yeah, well, the other thing that, and this touches down on something that you and I have talked about many times, but they talk about having large-scale employment opportunities. We know our region in particular is critically bound.
Yeah.
And this is why the film industry is such a spot-on kind of a thing, which we will have more to say when there's further developments that come down the road. But the vision that we've had was to really get into that particular vein with this facility and with other things that are growing in this area.
Opportunities created.
And the growth of the film office, which is now gaining ground all over the place.
It's happening.
So we're looking at that, and I think that we have to really look at the other priorities have to do with eliminating poverty, which, quite frankly, in my opinion, we're not going to do it. Don't think it's going to happen, not even by 2050. I think there's a certain kind of a thinking, a mindset that will never change, that will always have a poverty kind of a thinking, and will never be willing to pay the price to get out of that poverty thinking.
So do you agree then if I say that poverty is more of a mindset than a condition? Because there are ways. Let me put you on the spot a little bit. Let's talk about Life Community Services.
Yeah.
I know in Pretoria there's a group called Pop-Up.
Yeah.
And they take in people from the street that's in a very bad situation financially, food, clothing, everything. And they bring them into that. But from what I can remember is they make them sign a contract saying, I will stay here and I will abide by these rules.
Yes.
These rules will give you the necessary training and support and accommodation and food to get you out of the gutter and get you back into working thing and get you. That's got a lot to do with mindset, because if their mindset, most of the guys would come in for a meal and then they would disappear again. Does life do the same?
Very, very same kind of a thinking, because the pervasive thinking is that we are not raising liabilities, we are raising assets. Liabilities cost the government. Liabilities are always there costing somebody. We're raising up a generation of kids that are becoming assets in their community, are going out, are taking jobs, are growing in their jobs because they have a good attitude. They're humble, they're teachable, they're instructable, they could go out there and make a difference. I actually visited Pop-Up.
Okay.
One of my visits to Pretoria, I visited there. And what I find interesting is that there is that sense of responsibility. And that's what we're going after the kids about, because you've got to take authority over your circumstances. You cannot be bound. Now I'm going to start preaching. You will not be bound by this. And so we go after that whole thinking, hey guys, you don't have to be like previous generations that's been going from one generation to the next. And we're breaking that curse.
And it is a mindset. They need to get out of that mindset.
Yeah. Well,
so what we still have? We still need to really get into the politics, because you've often mentioned about this new
nation
movement. There's a whole bunch of people that we are friends with that's running this thing. And they're running with a new way of thinking. Here we're back at the new way of thinking. So they're running with this new way of thinking, and they're actually doing something about it. Because it's one thing to decide you're going to do something, and then another thing actually doing and following through on what you've decided to do. Now, these guys don't only speak, they actually do something about it. You mentioned something happened, or something is going to happen this weekend?
It is. What has happened is that the New Nation movement has had a real great history. As a matter of fact, it started becoming kind of coalescing together around about October of 2017, just before Arne van Niekerk, who's been kind of like one of the founders of the New Nation movement, came from Bloemfontein down here, in fact, to these very studios that we're in. And he came here and spoke about this new thing that is happening. It is now pretty close to 1 million people strong that have signed, sealed, and delivered a clear-cut message that it's time for new governance and it's time for greater responsibility. What I find fascinating before coming to this weekend is that in recent weekends, 2 weekends in a row, there have been meetings in Cape Town and then another one in Johannesburg. And different political leaders from many different parties came together with the New Nation leadership. Now, the New Nation movement is not the political party. It's just there to say, hey guys, you need to become more responsible to the people of this land. Now, take that to its logical end, and by and large, then you come up with a court case that also came up recently.
Oh yes, the court case.
The court case that came before Judge Desai in Cape Town, I think it was. And what they're basically calling for is, instead of voting for a political party, you can actually vote for a candidate, which basically throws the whole process open to what we would call a brand new thinking about how elections should be run. And
isn't that very much like the U.S.?
It is totally like the U.S.
Because in the U.S., a candidate would have a whole campaign, and that's where a lot of stories always pop out about campaign funding and those kind of things. But I mean, then they go on a campaign tour run. What do you call it?
Yeah, campaign is basically just that.
And they go and they make a lot of promises, and I will do this and this and this. But now with this party, not only are they encouraging this new way of thinking, but they're going to keep the leaders accountable, which is a very good thing.
Well, they went with 10 convictions that come from out of the New Nation movement, which has strong Christian roots attached to it, and saying, hey guys, we want certain principles to be activated, and something like 7 or 8 different parties in Parliament actually signed it, signed the document, said this is what we believe in. And I think we can use some names because we're talking about parties here, but part of that, of course, was COPE, signed it. Very nice
one.
So did the DA. So did the ACDP.
So DA actually got on board.
On board. And they signed the principles.
Their leader is also a very strong kingdom-minded person.
Yeah, very much so. Musi Maimane. I like him. He's a dynamic young man.
I've met him before, and
I think
comes across very, very pleasant.
I think we're in a new kind of a era that's going to break loose. And so the elections are coming up on May the 8th. I think we're coming close to the end of the program, so we need to kind of...
I guess we've got about 3 minutes left.
We need to kind of wind it up here. But basically, could we be facing the reality with the New Nation movement and with the new things that are happening like this coming weekend? Leaders, including myself, have been invited to come to Pretoria, although I can't make it. And but they're going to Pretoria basically to get a thrust, and then there's going to be prayer initiatives, and it's all going to be out there in the news media. And in fact, all of the people that are part of the New Nation movement have been told to go to Election Day wearing white.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wearing white, and I will wear a white shirt when I go to vote on May the 8th. So maybe we could have as shocking a result on May the 9th when everybody wakes up as the United States of America had two years ago.
They didn't expect that one. Trump? He
Trump?
actually made it?
No!
He cannot make it.
I mean, the left wing went berserk. Well, so did the right wing, for that matter, but they didn't see it coming.
Well,
So,
anything is possible. Unfortunately, at this stage in South Africa, you can see a lot of results from the current management of the country, whether it's from all the state capture, the ESCOM, the power, the blackouts, everything like that. Unfortunately, Philip, the thing about South Africa is the people's mindset, the people that mostly vote, most of the time don't think clearly. They are scared. They are forced into
fear is a big factor.
voting
Yeah.
for a party, not
Yeah.
because they believe that party can actually do what is needed. They're voting for that party because they're scared they're going back to the old way of things. And you know, that's very, very sad, because at this stage, it's literally that thing where you say you must be blind not to see the truth, because it's so evidently across South Africa, except for here in George, across South Africa, you can see it so very clearly what the condition of the country is.
Well, my final word on this is that the scriptures outline or make a very dramatic statement. And that dramatic statement says, can a nation be born in a day?
Israel was.
Thank you very, very much. Can we be renewed in one day? I believe it.
Yes.
I believe we live in a time of miracles. I believe that God has his hand over this nation. And on that point, I want to say thank you very much, Jacques.
It's a great pleasure.
Thank you to everybody for joining us on this program. We are so looking forward for everybody to come back and join us, and to invite your friends, your loved ones, your relatives. We're going to have further hot discussions, which we promise we're going to try to be as balanced as we can possibly be, and to give every perspective so that we can all have a good discussion. And please do not forget, we need your comments to come in, and we want you to write it out on Facebook. As you see it, write out the comments. And if you have any questions, feel free to do that as well, because we want you to be able to have the answers to many of the things. And if there's a particular topic that you're looking forward to having a discussion about, we are absolutely certain, Jacques, to take it on.
I would love to.
Especially when you wear your red shirt.
I don't have my red shirt on today.
And on that front, I would just like to say the Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. And may his face shine upon you and give you his peace, and bring us all back together again in the love of God through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.